On this episode of Drinks Around the Table, I sit down with Sophie Stern, romance novelist extraordinaire. We discuss alien loves and dragon shifters, her scheduling as a full-time novelist, and the narrative lessons that can be picked up in WandaVision. Hope you enjoy. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. What are you drinking?
Today I am drinking Kraken whiskey in a cool Nightmare Before Christmas mug, which matches my
Very
hat.
nice.
What
Yeah,
about
that's
you?
awesome.
Oh, thank you.
Lauren, for those of you watching that don't know, my wife made me a hot toddy, a double hot toddy, because I've been under the weather this week, if you can't tell by the sound of my voice. So, all right, you are wickedly prolific. Looking at your Amazon, is Amazon your primary, like where you sell mostly, or what do you aim for mostly when you sell?
What do I aim for? So I used to do Amazon exclusively. I totally loved being on Amazon, but I ended up having some problems with the Kindle Unlimited program a couple of years ago. And I decided to go ahead and go wide. So right now, some of my books are in Kindle Unlimited, and then some of them are on Google, Kobo, Apple Books. So it kind of depends on the book for me. Like if I do a series, I usually have that everywhere.
Gotcha. So Kindle Unlimited, how does it work?
So Kindle Unlimited is where people can pay, it's like Netflix for books. People can pay $10 a month and read as much as they want as long as the books are in the program. And then
Gotcha.
authors used to be paid $2 per read. So if somebody borrowed your book, you'd get $2. Whether it was 30 pages or 3,000 pages, $2. They
Nice.
changed it. So now you
Of
get
course.
like half of a cent per page, a little less than half percent.
Oh, wow.
So if you have longer books, you can still make a couple of dollars per read if they read the whole thing.
Right.
But shorter books, it's usually not quite as profitable. It's usually best to go wide on those.
Wow. Wow.
Are
That's,
you?
yeah, that's
Have
not
you
a good
ever read
deal
on Kindle
at all.
Unlimited? Are you a
I've
paperback kind
not,
of guy?
I've read on Kindle, but I've not joined up for Kindle Unlimited. And I don't have any of my stuff on Kindle Unlimited, obviously, because I didn't even know how it worked. But
Okay.
yeah, no, that's particularly so. I mean, if they just check it out and don't read it,
You don't
you
get paid.
don't get anything.
No. And what's kind of funny is I had a book in Kindle Unlimited a few years ago, and it's wide now. It's been on other platforms for like 3 years, and I just did a promo and started getting page reads, which means somebody had that
Nice.
book
Right.
like downloaded for like 3 years, and they were like, "Ooh, let's take a look."
I did have that.
Yeah.
Wow. What's all right, so what's your go-to secondary source as far as digital, obviously? Like what's well, okay, what do you no, scratch that. What do you do draft to digital?
I do. I actually love them.
Okay,
Oh,
I've just started dabbling in that. How does that what's
so I
tell me about that.
okay, yeah. Now I'm not a salesman for them. I just
Right,
really
right, right.
like
Yeah, by no
I really
means is
like
this
their
any kind of
website.
like, yeah, you should
So
go
I'm just
here.
I'm worried I'm gonna be like, okay. They're fantastic. They are still kind of a smaller business. So I found customer support's amazing. I always get a real person if I email them with a question. They always help me. Basically, you upload your stuff to their website and they distribute it for you. So you can have them distribute to Amazon, you can have them distribute to Kobo, anything you want. Mostly it just saves you time because you can go and individually upload to different platforms and stuff.
Right.
As you mentioned, I do write a lot of books. And so for me, I just like saving the time.
Well, sure.
Um, and their platform is super streamlined. It's really easy to track your sales and stuff like that. And there was a problem in, I want to say in October, where Barnes and Noble had like that big thing where they were hacked and they had like all those
Right.
glitches. I don't know if you remember that or
I
paid
do,
attention.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, they didn't pay people. There was problems with reporting, and I might be mixing up my stories. Anyways, there was one time when Barnes and Noble didn't pay people, and they covered it. Drafted Digital covered it, so authors still got paid on time. And I think payments were delayed after the October thing. Sorry
Right.
if that sounds a little crazy, but
No, yeah.
basically, anytime a platform doesn't pay or there's a delay, they always help their writers. So you can always kind of count on them.
Nice.
which I really like.
No, that's awesome. Yeah, certainly
Sorry,
better
I
than
said
the
that really
alternative.
fast. I was like,
No, no, no.
oh,
Yeah, no, that's
you
cool.
know about this.
I downloaded. So I did the not. Well, I guess I've done everything. I just haven't looked at it. It's kind of like Kindle Unlimited readers,
Yeah,
evidently.
yeah,
I
yeah.
I did it. I downloaded it all, but I haven't actually gone back to see if it's done anything.
Okay, cool,
But
cool.
you are not only prolific writer, you are insanely prolific social media. Like I see
Oh,
your TikTok, and it's like, how in the world? How many TikToks do you do a day on average?
okay. So the last week I've been only doing like one a day, but before that, I just started TikTok as like a human in December. Before that, I only did TikToks of my cat, so I have like a separate account for my cat, which is so like kind of lame but really fun. And so I read, if you want people to follow you, you should post 3 times a day. And I saw this guy who was like, no, no, do like 9 times a day. So for like 6 weeks, I posted like 9 times a day, and it was so much
Good
fun.
Lord.
But then I actually had to get back to work, so now it's
Yeah.
like once or twice a day,
Still, that's crazy.
which
But
is
I mean, it's obviously works better that way because I post once a week on TikTok, I think. And yeah, I don't really understand the algorithm on TikTok because
yeah.
I've posted the same way every time, and I've had some that have multiple hundreds of hits, and then I have some that have five.
Yeah, yeah, that's totally happened to me too. I don't know either.
I
And
don't
it's funny because some people get like really serious about it and they're like, "Oh, only post it this time,
right.
only these hashtags." And it's like it doesn't matter.
It doesn't
Um,
seem to.
yeah, it's like it's a big whatever. I had a video, I don't really want to say it went viral, but it was like 15,000 views in a day of
Wow.
me driving down the road. Like I was a passenger, I wasn't actually driving, just filming like a field that I was driving by. And I was like, "Oh, this is what Kansas looks like today." 15,000 views. And
Fifteen thousand.
I got like 800 followers. It was so weird. I was like,
That's
but
wow. Yeah.
but but I want you to buy my books. I
Right.
don't want you to look at Kansas."
Kansas, right? Yeah, that's okay. That's
So
insane.
don't feel bad because I don't know either.
All right, well then I don't. I won't feel bad then. Um,
Okay. Okay, good. Good.
what's all right? So wait, we kind of skipped. What's your brand of book? Like, what do you write?
Okay, so romance, steamy romance, clean romance, contemporary, sci-fi, paranormal. Most of my books are paranormal romance, so a couple where one or both of them can shapeshift into animals.
Right.
Like that's probably like the biggest. And then I write a lot of alien romance, like on other planets. And then I tend to have a lot of random ideas. So I'll be like, oh, I should write a story about a librarian. That would be funny. And then I'll write it. And so I've got like lots of random contemporary romance kind of thrown in there too.
That's eclectic romance right there.
So
What
which is kind of funny.
kind of yeah? What did you publish your first book?
So my first book, I actually published a short story in, I want to say like 2011 or 2012 on Smashwords. And I made like $5 and I was so proud of myself. I was
Sure.
like so excited. I don't even think I have the story anymore. And then I started publishing books end of 2014, beginning of 2015. I started kind of getting serious and writing longer books and publishing on a pretty regular basis.
How often? What's
Um,
your schedule in a given month?
in a given month. So for a while I was doing one a month, and then the past 6 months I've been doing like 2 to 3 books a month.
God,
But starting in June, I'm going to go back to just one a month because I'd like them to be a little bit longer, and I'm
yeah.
going to write a couple of series that are a little longer. Um, and doing this many is it's kind of making me a little tired. So
I
I think
can
I'm
only
gonna I'm
imagine.
gonna space them out a little bit more.
Right.
Yeah. So I hope that answers
That's
your question. Yeah, it kind of
insane to
depends.
me. Like props to you, but yeah,
Thanks.
I've done one novel, two short story collections, and like four ebooks, and that's
Okay. Cool. Cool. Cool.
in the course of the last 3 years.
Hey, that's
2018
still
was
a
when I
lot
published my
though.
first
That's
novel.
cool. Oh wow. That was
That's
probably
not cool compared to
2021.
you. You
Oh
just are
my
like, I
goodness.
was doing 3 a month. You know, I'm a little tired now. I may go back to 1 a month, but
I mean, that's what the drinks are for, right?
man, I guess so. Either that or I'm too much of the drinks and I need to change it up. So why shifters? Like that's, I mean, it's insanely popular, but was that the reason?
So that's actually a super good question. I never really read a lot of romance until I was older. I when I was in my mid 20s, I'm in my 30s now. When I was in my mid 20s, I had a friend who really liked romance and was like, "Hey, read these books." And I kind of picked them up and I read a lot of different things. And I found a bunch of different dragon books. And I was like, oh, I like dragons. What if I fell in love with a dragon? And I was like, that would be pretty cool. So for me, it was just my first series was it's called Dragon Isle, and it's about dragon shifters who live on this little island. And it was super fun. But what's funny is my grandma recently found a bunch of stories I wrote when I was a kid, and like every one has like a shape-shifting person, and I do not remember this like at
Wow.
all. And I was like, "Ooh, I was a weird little kid." Even
Shifters have
then.
always been with you.
Yeah, she's always been in my heart.
That's cool though. I
So
like that.
it was, yeah, it was kind of funny to have that happen. So what about you? Do you write paranormal stuff? What kind of stuff do you usually?
So I dabble all over. My first novel takes place in a small town of Timberhaven.
Okay.
And Timberhaven Timberhaven came about because I had all these different characters and concepts that they weren't enough on their own to
Yeah.
merit a book by themselves. So I just kind of threw them in this small town, and that became Timberhaven. And in doing so, they kind of coalesced into this first novel.
Okay.
And now I've got probably at least 6 or 7 books mapped out to
Cool. Cool.
to fit within this. But it is magical realism. It's a
Nice.
small midwestern town, um, and the first novel is a horror novelist that comes to town to finish his novel, and he gets caught up in the weirdness of this town.
So does
But
he finish his story?
he finish his story? He does not finish his story. He definitely gets caught up, but the mystery of why he's been stuck. So I built Timberhaven to be able to tell any kind of story that I wanted to, whether it be mystery, romance, horror, sci-fi, fantasy, and all of it in theory by design works in this town. And so Waking the Weaver, which is the name of the first novel, it has everything. It's got little elements of all of it: romance, fantasy, sci-fi. But the mystery of it is Michael Gideon is the character's name. When he
Okay.
comes to town, the through line is the mystery of why he has been stuck on this particular book.
Ooh, okay. I kind of need to read this now. Don't tell me how it ends. That's pretty cool.
Won't. But yeah, so I'm a big horror fan. I'm a big okay. Okay. I'll tell you my answer, and then if you have an answer, let me hear it.
Okay.
My not who do you emulate necessarily, or you're suggesting that you write like them, because that's not what I'm doing right here. I do not
Okay.
write like any of these people, but in my voice, in my author's voice, I can see the influence of Stephen King, Neil Gaiman, Charles DeLint, Peter S. Beagle, and Diana Wynne Jones. I can see that
Ooh.
all in my voice when I read my stuff. Do you have influences like that on your voice?
That's so amazing. I honestly cannot think of anything, but I'm gonna be thinking of it, and I'll probably send you an email in like a week and be like, add a note under my picture during this part of the episode. That's so cool though. I would love to write like Neil Gaiman. He's amazing. He
I'd
does
love to
so
write like him. I don't,
yeah.
but the influence is definitely there. Like
Yeah,
the way
that's
I always
cool.
inevitably approach magical realism stems completely from Neil Gaiman.
That's
The
so
way I
cool.
approach characters stems completely from Stephen King. And I don't know
Fun.
if you've read any Charles DeLint, but
I
his
haven't.
Newford series, his Newford is a town where all these weird, magical, realistic things happen, and Timberhaven could have been a copy of the blueprint of that.
I love that. That's cool.
Hey, all
Yeah,
right, so
that's super nice.
no influences come to mind immediately.
None come to mind, but I will say, and I know I'm kind of interrupting you, I'm sorry.
No, that was my question.
Okay. I will say that I notice the more that I read, I feel like it helps me become a stronger writer because even when I'm reading fiction, because I read a lot of different fiction, thrillers, mystery, horror, zombie stuff, vampire stuff, all of it, I love it. The more that I read other things, it's easier for me to go, oh, I love how they did this. I need to do more of that.
Right.
Or, oh, I hate that. I don't want to do that. And it's kind of interesting because one complaint I get on my books is I don't usually describe my characters very well. I usually just I don't care. I don't care what they look like. So
Yeah.
I almost say they have brown hair. Like that's
Right.
about as much as I describe them. And some people hate that. But when I'm reading a book, I'll just completely ignore character descriptions,
Sure.
and I'm just like, I just don't care. Let's get to the story. Let's see what happens. But so yeah, as I read, because I read a lot of different things, I totally agree. I'll pull things and be like, oh, I need to do more of this. I need to slow down a little bit and describe the room a little more, or maybe some more of a backstory and that sort of
Yeah. No, I mean I get that. Who is it that I'll have to look this up later and put it in. I
thing.
can't remember the quote, but the quote basically is like skip all, like basically just everybody that reads typically reads like pans over everything that's not dialogue, and then they get to dialogue and they read the dialogue and they pan to the next speaking part, and it's like, I don't know if that's true, but maybe it is.
You're like, no, no, that's not how you read. You are
Right,
reading
yeah. There's
incorrectly.
stuff you need to know
Every word,
when
there's a
somebody's not
clue.
speaking. Right.
Yeah, that is funny. And I know I was an English major in college and we read, I want to say Island of the Blue Dolphins, but I'm not 100% on that, where there's like no dialogue in the
Yeah.
whole book. And my professor was just thrilled. He was like, this is amazing. There's no dialogue. And I was reading it. I'm like, there's no dialogue. What happens?
Wow, yeah, I don't know that I'd like no dialogue. I know it. I've never read it, but yeah, it
Yeah.
doesn't sound like I would have enjoyed it overly much. I'm not saying it needs to be a play where it's all dialogue, but
Yeah.
I like a nice chat every once in a while. What are you
Yeah.
reading these days? Like, what's your pull right now?
What's my poll right now? So I'm actually almost done with Ready Player 2. Have you read that?
I haven't read two. I enjoyed one
Okay.
quite a bit.
It is exactly like number one, like
Okay.
exactly the same plot
Oh,
without giving you any spoilers. It's like exactly the same, but it's like your standard sequel where they like bring in a couple new people.
oh,
The original cast is still there. So I don't know. It looks like you might not like it. It's funny. I like
yeah,
it so far. I don't know if I'll reread it,
right.
but I'm almost at the end. I've got like 4 chapters left. It's a slow start though.
Yeah.
Nothing happens until like you're 100 pages in, and then it just goes, and then it's
Then it
fast.
starts going. Huh. I mean,
So
I admit freely that the first one, I don't know exactly what kind of kid you were, but the first one is definitely nostalgia porn for me. Like I mean, that could have been my life. Him going through and like the D&D module. I remember
yeah,
that playing that. I remember, so it was just a constant, point after point of, oh my God. So without that, I don't know that I would have been as affected by Ready Player One.
yeah, they it's very heavy in the second one too. Second
Okay.
half of the book, it's without giving too much away, like they go to Shermer, Illinois, like the planet.
Oh
So like
wow.
all the John Hughes movies,
Right.
and they're like, and here's a list of trivia. I'm like, well, I kind of feel like I'm reading the wiki page, but it's still
Yeah.
really interesting. I don't know. I like it so far.
Well,
It's
I'd
kept my
actually
interest.
okay. I had read, or I mean, I'd seen comments to the effect that, oh, what do you do here with the second one? Which is part of the reason I hadn't read it yet. But
Yeah,
I mean, I imagine I'll get around to it. Did you read, what is it, Artemis? Was that the follow up? No, that's Andy Weir. Sorry,
it's
I'm
okay.
mixing up my authors here. Oh, okay. So you write primarily romance. Do
Yes.
you find that you read a lot of romance, or does that seem too much like the work you do, so you want to go elsewhere?
So I'm torn on your answer. I'm going to try to keep my answer short. I mean, I'm
Oh,
torn
go
on your
ahead.
question, but I think it's really important to read the genre you write so you know what reader expectations are. So you can meet those or not meet them, but you'll
Fair, yeah,
know. So I do read some romance, but it does feel a little too much like work sometimes. So
yeah.
I probably read a couple romance books a month, but most of the time when I'm reading for fun, it's a thriller or like like a Neil Gaiman book or something like that. I think I'm gonna reread Wheel of Time next. I haven't read that in a long time.
Got a buddy that's wrapping up now. He's in the. Have you finished it before though?
I think I made it to book 9 before, but I
Okay.
need to
Well,
restart because I
you
don't
made it
remember.
past the hardest part. Well, what I found was the hardest part because I read those as they came out, and so not only did
Cool.
I have to wait, you know, multiple years for the next sequel, but then to have a sequel where you're just like knocking your head because it's like 6 pages of the color of the banners for the art. It's like I don't care about
So
this.
I actually read them on Kindle, and the cool thing about Kindle is they do the X-ray where you
Yeah.
can click. If you're like, who is this person? You can click, and it's like, oh, they did this
Oh,
one thing.
nice.
And I'm like,
Nice.
oh, that helps so much because there's so many characters.
There are,
There's
yeah.
so
I don't remember it being
many.
as bad as Martin's Song of Ice and Fire,
Okay.
but because I mean his characters, there was a point in reading Game of Thrones where I quit focusing on the first name. I was like, okay, the surname. I know that family. Okay, going on. Like
Yeah.
until they were there long enough to be. It's like when you're you have a sibling who dates a ton, and it's like I'm not going to bother learning your name because you probably won't be here a week or two. Like that's what it felt like. Where
That's
okay,
funny.
now I can know who you are. But sorry, I interrupted. Yeah, so
No, you didn't. You're fine.
okay. Yeah, he's at the because Brandon Sanderson did the last 3 books. He is at
Yeah.
the penultimate book of the series,
Okay.
and so I'm waiting for him to finish up and be like, all right, here's what I think. Because he's been breaking it down as he goes. I'll get texts at 1 a.m. of this character sucks. Like I hate this person. And yeah, he's getting into it.
That's
What's
funny.
is that the what's the longest series you've read?
Oh my goodness. Babysitters Club, Boxcar Children. Maybe like Nancy Drew.
Oh wow.
So okay, I know it's like a kid book, but when I was
No,
a
hey,
kid, I read like every single Boxcar Children
sure.
book. There's like over 100. I think they're on like the 200s now, but I think I stopped at 100.
Good
But
Lord,
as
really
far as
that
like
many?
there were a lot. I mean,
That's
they're
insane.
all ghost written, so it's
Right.
been like 100 years.
Yeah, I was gonna say that. I mean, surely the original author is no longer living.
Yeah, she wrote like the first 17 and then that was it. And then it went to I think multiple ghostwriters, I assume, I don't really know.
Yeah.
Um, but as far as a grown-up reading grown-up books, I don't know. I've read a couple romance series that were like 10 or 15 books long. What about you?
Yeah, I was gonna say because I thought romance. I mean, I knew there were romance series that were. Wheel of Time is definitely the longest that I because
Yeah.
that's 15 if you count the Prelude book. I
Yeah.
think. Yeah.
Cool.
Sorry to turn my back on you. I'm looking at my Robert Jordan collection to
No,
see
I
if that's the
saw
case.
it. I'm
Yeah.
jealous. That's
Oh yeah,
cool.
that's just the fiction part of the library.
Ooh, and
Another
I think I
wall
see
over
maybe
here.
some
Yeah.
Harry Potter over there.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
what else do I see?
Pretty much, if you can, if it's anybody of note within the last 50 years, it's probably up there.
That's cool. I like that. That's awesome. So what have you been reading lately?
What have I been reading lately? So I have a tendency to, if I want a vibe of what I'm going after, I will read that vibe.
Oh, that
So
works.
kind of to your point of it seems like work. I get that completely,
Yeah.
but which is why I have to go. It has to be a tone that I'm trying to achieve in what I'm working on. So my Harrowed Earth series is going to drop. The first book of that drops next month, and it is basically the friend of mine who I was talking about before. He and I and another friend of ours started making up a comic book universe when we were 10 years old, like
That's cool.
decades back. And so over the years, that has, grown and evolved into something not quite as, childhood ripoffy as we had a character named Bulk instead of Hulk. So yeah, I mean, you gotta update that, or intellectual properties, you're gonna get sued.
Someone
Um,
might notice.
yeah, and so the series is kind of those comic book type stories without the art. So it's a very action, horror, sci-fi, fantasy vibe.
Cool.
So to be in that mindset for those books, I've been reading a lot of like, let's see, who have I been reading lately? Robert E. Howard. I've been reading a lot of
Right.
Conan and
Oh, cool.
Solomon Kane mostly instead of Conan, because that's more of the vibe that I'm going for.
Yeah.
But like, I don't know. I go through bouts of golden age fantasy. I don't know if you read stuff from, like, I read stuff from the 30s and 40s, and
That's super cool.
like, I mean, the ideas are cool. The follow through is not always easy.
Sometimes it's a little rough around the edges.
Yeah, it's like, wow, you guys had really cool ideas, but man, your writing
It's rough.
is not well. And I mean, the just insane racism and
Oh, I
sexism, and it's like,
know.
okay, none of
You're
this
like,
checks today. Like, it doesn't track.
I
But
don't know if we could publish this
right,
now. I don't know if we should publish this now.
that's the thing. Yeah, we need to. Yeah, we're gonna steer clear of that.
Yeah.
What what about flicks, movies, and stuff? Do you get inspired for writing much there?
I'm gonna be honest, I don't watch a lot of movies. So when I say I write full time, I usually do at least 8 hours a day of writing, marketing, and that sort of thing. And so by the end of the day, I'm like so done staring at screens. So I
Sure.
don't usually watch a ton of movies. Lately, I've been watching WandaVision though. Have you seen that?
I have. And
Ugh.
to avoid
Oh.
spoilers for those that haven't watched today's, that was today being, what is today? The 20th. Yeah, episode 8 was today, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. I think yeah, it was 8.
Yeah. Have you watched
I
today's?
did. I
Okay.
did watch it, and wow, one thing that I love about any kind of Marvel anything is I feel like the writing is so strong and they keep things going for a
Yeah.
long time. They'll reuse things from like a movie, like they'll have a character in a movie and then they'll bring them onto WandaVision, and you're like, oh, I totally know what's going on. That's so cool.
Right. The reference. And see, that's the thing. I'm a comic geek. And so, God, I don't want to spoil anything. Okay, so the reveal of the potential, or definitely a big bad of the series, if
Yeah.
not the big bad, wasn't. I mean, if I don't know if you're a comic geek, but if you were a comic geek of old, that wasn't much of a reveal. You kind of saw the writing on the wall that was going to be
I had
play out.
not read the comics. I did not know anything about it, and I avoided reading
That's
anything
cool, right?
at all because I just wanted to be
Yeah,
completely
yeah, yeah.
surprised. And I
I
went,
totally get it.
and then I just stared. I feel like the last 3 episodes have ended, and I just like stare, and I'm like, no, that's not fair. Everyone ends on a
I
cliffhanger. There's no
yeah,
resolution.
I didn't know until I actually went back through to make sure I hadn't missed any, but I think it was maybe the last episode, may have been the episode before, that there are actually mid-credit stingers. Like, I didn't
Oh
think there
yeah,
were
I did
any.
see this.
And I was like, oh crap, now I gotta go back through. And then there weren't any in the first 5 or whatever. But that
That's how
first
they
one,
get you.
right. I was like, man, yeah, I gotta go back through. Um, but so yeah, I agree completely that, like, the little callbacks, particularly in the today's episode 8, that was a cool way to, like, it didn't broaden the story, but it deepened the story. And I thought
That's
I
cool.
like that. That's cool. Yeah, I mean, they've, in my opinion, been all but flawless in their story
Yeah, I
crafting
would agree.
of the entire, at this point, 13 years that they've been crafting
Yeah,
the MCU. It's
for
very
sure.
impressive.
Well, I
All
think
right,
that's
go
something
ahead.
cool that we can kind of draw from as writers, no matter what we write. Just
Yeah,
the idea of, I know you're doing a 7 book series, is that right?
I potentially,
Ish.
I've got
Okay.
them mapped out. We'll see.
Okay, cool. Well, just having like the idea that I have all of these books I'm going to write, I can have continuing ideas. I can refer back to the first book. People will get that and they'll like it. And that can be really funny. I read a series. by Lexi Blake. She writes romance, and everybody's a spy. Like all the people are spies. And it's like, I have no idea what it's at now. I think 13 or 14 books. But in like book 10, there was a joke referencing book 2. And I thought it was so funny. I laughed for like 10 minutes and I was like, oh, I'm such a nerd. This is bad.
No,
It's such
that's
a dumb
awesome.
joke, but it was good. It was so amazing. So I hope that I, at some point with a longer series, make my readers laugh like that. I think that would be cool.
No, that's very cool. I mean, and particularly as a comic geek, like I used to geek out all the time about editors' notes saying, you know, when the comic characters would reference something and there'd be an editor note saying see issue whatever, and it's like, I know that reference. I read that book. I know what they're talking about. I didn't
That's
need the
silly.
editor's note, but that's awesome. But see, then I run into how much do you like? Obviously, with the example you just gave, it would be totally cool. But as the writer, how much do you hinge a scene banking on the fact that in this book your reader has read the previous book, so have to have that payoff work, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I almost never do that actually.
Yeah.
I try to make everyone kind of a standalone, and with romance, you can do that.
Yeah.
If you have a series, it's kind of expected that each book will follow a different couple, whether it's in the same town or in the same group of people. Like maybe you have like a set of brothers and they all find their true love, and each book follows like a set. So with romance, it's kind of expected that each one is kind of a standalone with the same like the same world and the same themes.
Okay.
So I do like to write where people can kind of just jump in at any point. And it's worked well because I've had like a couple of book bubs for later books in the series, and people haven't been confused when they've jumped in,
Okay, good. I
which
mean,
is nice.
that's, yeah, that's what you want.
Yeah.
What's so do you are you I mean, maybe it's a staple, maybe people don't like it if you don't do this, but do you do the happily ever after endings typically?
I do. I always do. And I almost always have an epilogue. I didn't do it before, but I got a one book I decided not to have an epilogue, and I kept getting reader complaints. What happens? What happens after the end of the book? And so many reviewers said it that I changed the book. I updated
Oh
it,
wow.
and I sent it out to my mailing list, and I was like, if you already bought it, here's what happens to the couple. And it was just a couple pages of an epilogue. So I do have very cheesy, very happily ever after. Yes, I do.
No, I mean,
Um,
I would think that you might have a part of your readership that might get, well, I mean, clearly you do if you've got people writing you saying, how, you know, how's it work out that
and I
if you
felt
didn't have a
bad. I
happy
felt
ending.
so bad. I was like, I don't know. It's a lot of pressure for one writer.
Right. Wow. That's cool though. I mean, to have that kind of passion about your writing, but like I cannot relate to that at this point. Like
Oh.
most people that have read mine have been like, that's cool, I liked it. But I don't have that kind of, you know, I've never had anybody be like, well, what? And now I do have people saying, when the hell's the next book? I mean, I'm getting
That's
nailed
the
there
same thing.
constantly.
Yeah, that's the same thing. They want more.
Yeah. Well, I guess
You're
that's
like, you'll get
true.
it when you get it.
Yeah.
So
I'm
be
working,
patient.
I'm trying.
Yeah.
It's
I'm busy.
I'm shooting for it. But
Yep.
see, that's why I'm so envious of the multiple books a month, because with my Heroed Earth series, my plan was to do one a month
Okay, cool.
and then just ebooks and then do an omnibus physical collection at the end of the year. But already, I mean, I've been sick this week, and that 1 week has thrown off. I can't foresee
Yeah.
that being something that pans out. So the fact that you're knocking them out 3 a month or were, I'm impressed. That's impressive.
Thank you. That's really nice of you.
And to maintain a readership that's that passionate about it is very nice. All right, so we're running out of time here. Where can everybody find you? Where's the best place to find you?
So the best place to find me would just be on Facebook mostly. Just facebook.com/sexy Sophie Stern. I have the same username on pretty much every platform. Instagram, it's Don't Date Demons. So I'm on there a lot. As you mentioned, TikTok. So, but yeah, mostly Facebook. I have a Facebook page and I have a Facebook group where I kind of hang out and talk about books.
Okay. Well, I will put all that below in
Oh,
the in
awesome.
the in the description of the episode. And meantime, thanks for having a drink with me.
Thank you so much. It was great to. Oh, there we go. Great to see you and get to talk to you.
Same. We'll talk to you later.
Right.
And that wraps up our visit. Remember, if you'd like to get together for a drink, just reach out. We'll put something on the books. In the meantime, like, share, subscribe to all the things down below. Till next time.